Hey, listen!
There's a lot of things that I think make Breath of the Wild a special game. But one area in particular that I think really takes it to another level is the Great Plateau, the very beginning of Breath of the Wild. I remember back at E3 2016, Nintendo told us they were going to show us just this one game. And pretty much all they showed of this one game at E3 was this single section of Breath of the Wild that's the beginning of the game, the Great Plateau. And yet, despite it just being based off this one single section of this one single game, that was one of my favorite E3s ever. The Great Plateau was exemplary of the entire game. It showcased what it was all about. And it establishes an incredible flow to the game, I would say. But with the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, how will this game start? Will it have something that measures up to the Great Plateau? Or will they go in a different direction? Well, that's what we're talking about today. Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart, and this time we're talking about the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom. How is it gonna go? Because I do think the circumstances this time around are a little different. With Breath of the Wild, it was the first foray into an open-air Zelda, and they needed to have the Great Plateau to really establish how you would play the game. And I think it was amazing because compared to previous introductions to different 3D Zeldas, it really got you into the action a lot quicker. The initial cutscene is not even 2 minutes long, and you're off exploring this fairly large initial area rather quick, and then the game opens up entirely not too long afterwards. Is Tears of the Kingdom going to replicate this exactly? Well, let's kind of dive into this, because I don't think it's going to dive into something like the Great Plateau exactly. I do think they will have an equivalent, but when you take a look at Tears of the Kingdom and the 3 different major trailers we've gotten for this game, I don't feel that it's just going to start off with a Great Plateau within the first 2 minutes. And I say that because with the first trailer, we see this compilation of shots showing Link and Zelda exploring underground Hyrule. And it looks to be showing off a fairly substantial journey. Now, this can be portrayed with a fairly short cutscene. I mean, the trailer itself is only about 90 seconds, but I imagine the full game there will be a bit more detailed than what they showed there. But I do believe this is actually the beginning of the game. Because when we take a look at all the promotional material for Tears of the Kingdom, it's Link in the sky, and they're marketing that this big change for Tears of the Kingdom is exploration in the sky. Now, I do think there'll be more beyond the sky, but I'm of the belief that we are starting in the sky. Because it does appear that when Link and Zelda meet with what appears to be the corpse of Ganondorf and it resurrects, there is a bit of a scuffle that ensues there. There is an earthquake, Zelda falls down a hole, Hyrule Castle rises into the sky, other things we presume occur around the world thanks to the malice and Ganondorf coming back to life. This green hand that was maybe suppressing the corpse of Ganondorf comes off and grabs Link, but we also see shots of the trailers of Link's hand getting burned by the malice or being attacked, and we also see evidence that the Master Sword has been destroyed. But when we take a look specifically at the second trailer, this is one particular shot where we can actually see Link in what appears to be just his underwear, laying down, not too different from maybe the beginning of Breath of the Wild where he's waking up in the bed, except this time we can see a focus on his arm that's been destroyed, but now it has these different armaments that make it look like the initial green hand that saved Link in the first trailer. And we see from the gameplay footage that this is going to have similar abilities to the Sheikah Slate, and the implication here is that it's going to be the replacement for the Sheikah Slate, and we're going to have it from fairly early on in the game. And I say all this because I think it suggests that all of the events that we see from the cutscenes from the trailers we've gotten so far show basically the inciting incident for Tears of the Kingdom. We know that Link and Zelda are exploring Hyrule at the end of Breath of the Wild, and that they're going to check out Vah Ruta because there's something not quite working with it. And we've seen from all the Tears of the Kingdom footage that there is no sign of Sheikah technology. So I do think there's something off about the Sheikah technology, and the events surrounding this eventually lead to Link and Zelda exploring underground Hyrule and meeting the corpse of Ganondorf, which leads to all of the events of Tears of the Kingdom. And this single frame we have of what I think is Link lying down in underwear with the green hand powering it up, or with his green Zonai arm thing being set up, that's basically the equivalent to Link waking up in the Shrine of Resurrection. And that's when the actual gameplay ensues. So I think how Tears of the Kingdom is going to differ from Breath of the Wild is that the opening moments for Tears of the Kingdom is going to be a bit more of a substantial story trailer. I don't know exactly how long this will be. A lot of games take a while to start. They may have 5 to 10 minute cutscenes, sometimes longer. And I think we're going to get something like this for Tears of the Kingdom. It's not going to start off as quickly as Breath of the Wild, which I do understand some people may not be a fan of because, well, that's one of the great things about Breath of the Wild. You can jump right into the adventure. But I don't think it's going to be something like where we're going to have 30 minutes of cutscenes, 5 minutes of gameplay, and then 30 more minutes of cutscenes like an RPG. I think there's going to be a significant cutscene that explains the events that lead to the very beginning of Tears of the Kingdom, and then we're going to jump right into the gameplay. So maybe it's like a 5 or 6 minute cutscene that shows Link and Zelda exploring Hyrule, shows why they went on to go into underground Hyrule. Maybe there's some shots or some conversation that explain what's happened between the end of Breath of the Wild and now, and they show the attack, his resurrection, and how Link is saved. We do see the green hand grab Link, but we've also seen like these green droplets rise to the sky. We've even seen Link portaling upwards, surfacing through a platform. So in my opinion, this green hand is of a culture, I'm assuming the Zonai culture, we'll see, and this Zonai culture has influence in the sky, and it uses this opportunity to save Link, and it portals Link up into the sky, and he's repaired or fixed or some sort of surgery. There's some level of short time that passes by, and he wakes up with this green hand-like ability now, and that's basically the equivalent to the Shrine of Resurrection, and then Link will be exposed to a starting area comparable to the Great Plateau. Now, I don't think it will be specifically the Great Plateau itself, but let's just talk about this for a moment, because a thumbnail might suggest that maybe it could be the Great Plateau. I don't think it will be, because I think they want to do something different. However, there have been theories and speculations that the Great Plateau is something that hasn't always been where it is in Hyrule. It looks like this giant structure that has this giant stone wall around it that doesn't entirely match with the actual ground, the surface. It almost looks like it's something that could rise up. And in the DLC, we see that there's more to the Great Plateau than meets the eye. And then also, when we take a look at the initial trailer, or the first couple of trailers of Tears of the Kingdom, when it was just known as the sequel to Breath of the Wild, we see Hyrule Castle rising up into the sky from the ground. And there's all these things that are in the sky already with the different sky islands. There's this belief that maybe a lot of parts of Hyrule are going to be rising into the sky, just like Hyrule Castle, and maybe the Great Plateau could be one of them. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to Link starting from the Great Plateau again if there's a number of significant changes, but what I think makes the most sense is that they're simply going to give us a large area in the sky that maybe has some nearby sky islands to show some of that new sky exploration gameplay, and this is going to be meant to introduce us to the overall world. But after about 20 to 30 minutes of gameplay exploring things and understanding your abilities, you'll then obtain the option to perhaps dive further down below and explore the surface and beyond. Again, I'll say I think there's still a chance the Great Plateau could be in the sky, but I think it might just be another place to explore. And what's interesting about this is that if this does happen, it's more ways that they can change around the surface of Hyrule, giving us more reason to explore that. So what if the Great Plateau does rise into the sky? What was under it? We get to explore that. Let's keep in mind that there is this fairly lengthy cutscene we're assuming that's going to be of Link and Zelda exploring underground Hyrule. With the amount of time they're dedicating to exploring this area, I'd be surprised if we don't have an opportunity in actual game to explore this area. And I think the implication would be is that there are going to be a lot of subterranean areas as well, and maybe these areas open up by the cataclysmic event that's caused by Ganondorf coming back to life, with Hyrule Castle rising up, with malice erupting everywhere, and perhaps other areas, maybe like the Great Plateau, also rising up, opening caverns and tunnels and such to the subterranean parts of Hyrule, which could also be a cool new way to explore Hyrule. But back to the point, my belief from everything we've seen is that the beginnings of the game are going to be a cutscene explaining the events from Breath of the Wild to the inciting incident of Tears of the Kingdom, which is Link and Zelda perhaps looking for reason as to why the Sheikah technology isn't working or for a way to fix it. They meet Ganondorf. Ganondorf comes back to life, it goes crazy. Zelda is lost in some way, shape, or form, and this weird green hand saves Link, brings him to the sky via the portaling ability we've seen from the different trailers. He's resuscitated in some way with his new arm ability because his arm was damaged, and when he wakes up, similar to how he wakes up in the Shrine of Resurrection, there will be a starting area similar to the Great Plateau where Link will be exposed to different new options and abilities and mechanics that Tears of the Kingdom has, and then shortly afterwards, just like from the Great Plateau, things will open up. So basically from a gameplay structure, I think it's going to be about the same, just with new mechanics and a longer cutscene to start things off. Which I think might be a better way to go about things, because that suggests perhaps a better told story in Tears of the Kingdom, which is one of the ways I think the game can improve upon Breath of the Wild. But those are my thoughts on how I believe Tears of the Kingdom is going to start. Do you think it will be any different? Do you have any other ideas to add? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways everyone, this is On Just Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.